despite popular opinion, we are in Daniel chapter 4 today. Like that's, many people are like, I thought we were much farther than that. We are not. Like that's, Judges. Yeah. So we are.
Maybe they went ahead of you.
Yeah, we're in Daniel chapter 4 today. And if you remember, the first chapter of Daniel is kind of this that Daniel has he is well respected. He is not pushing aside the things that make him special, his Jewishness, the diets and all that stuff, but he's also not being combative. Like this flies in the face of how a lot of times we look at how we serve in these various forms around us. It's not just combative. It's not just, I'm giving away all my stuff. It's kind of this third way where we look and try to help. And so what ends up becoming of that is that Nebuchadnezzar ends up having this dream about this giant statue. And remember, there's like 4 metals in the statue. Starts, I think it's the most precious up top, and kind of becomes clay near the bottom. And then this one small asteroid or something like that comes and destroys it. And he's like, "Tell me what it means, but I'm not going to tell you the dream." And Daniel's like, "Well, I can do that." And I think that begins Nebuchadnezzar's kind of first time where he's like, Daniel's God is the best. And then he builds another. He's like, that was a good idea for a big statue. I really like that. And says you must bow down and worship me. And Daniel's friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the thing to remember them, Daniel is a Hebrew name. His slave name, we could say, because that may offend the most amount of people, is Belteshazzar, right? Is that the slave name? His Babylonian name? And then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we know them by their Babylonian slave names, which is interesting that the storytellers don't do that with Daniel, but do that with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like that's and I think it's telling us something. The story is wanting us to know something about them. Because if I told you their three Hebrew names, which I don't even remember off the top of my head right now. But if I said, let's talk about the story of those guys, no one would know what I'm talking about.
Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah?
Yeah, exactly. Like we talk about them. There's probably a couple people that know, and those people are painful in Bible studies. And like that's but like that. But but it's interesting that there's this subtlety going along there. But they kind of do like what Daniel did. They're good servants of what's going on, but they refuse to bow down to this image, this giant idol of this God King, like all these things. So they refuse to do that, and he's like, let's throw them in the fiery furnace. And it was so hot, and like it's like a cartoon. Like everything is just over the top. Like even the people that throw them in succumb to the flames, Like and then there's like one, and to quote VeggieTales yet again, is that there's three in there's the three in there, but there's a fourth. He's real shiny. And so we see that there is some type of part of the God's realm or something like that. Is it an angel? Is it Jesus? Is it God himself? Like that, it doesn't really tell us, but it does say the Christian interpretation is that that's Jesus. But the words don't really tell us, so there's all kinds of wiggle room. So that's kind of where we are. And then and the king at the end of it again is like, all you guys, like this God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is amazing. He sent his angels and delivered his servants. He's frustrated the kings of the world, and no one is to serve or worship any God except their. Hold on, am I reading the wrong thing? He ends up talking about how awesome Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego gods are. God is. And they shall be cut into pieces if they do anything against.
Anyone who says anything against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be cut into pieces. Their houses will be turned into piles of rubble.
There we go.
No other God can save in this way.
Yes. So as you can see, King Nebuchadnezzar doesn't make rash decisions that are way too far. Like oh, it's a lot like yeah. Like we're all going to Applebee's after this, and so the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So that's kind of where we are. What do you think the king's going to do next? You think he's going to do anything against any of these guys? I don't know. We'll find out. There may be some stuff afoot. Let me make sure. I was trying to make this work. Let me make sure I'm on the right thing. Oh, we're not in Daniel chapter 1. We are in chapter 4. Okay. And then, all right, go back and zoom here. All right, so here we go. We're going to share this screen. We're going to optimize it for video. I know. And so here we go.
Nebuchadnezzar the king, all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I thought it good to declare the signs and wonders that the Most High God has worked for me. How great are his signs and how mighty his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation.
I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts on my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore I issued a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known to me the interpretation of the dream. Then the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers came in, and I told them the dream, but they did not make known to me its interpretation. But at last Daniel came before me. His name is Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God. In him is the spirit of the holy God. And I told the dream before him, saying, Belteshazzar, chief of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy God is in you, and no secret troubles you. Explain to me the visions of my dream that I have seen and its interpretation. These were the visions of my head while on my bed. I was looking, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height was great. The tree grew and became strong. Its height reached to the heavens, and it could be seen to the ends of all the earth. Its leaves were lovely, its fruit abundant, and in it was food for all. The beasts of the field found shade under it. The birds of the heavens dwelt in its branches, and all flesh was fed from it. I saw in the visions of my head while on my bed, and there was a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus,
Chop down the tree and cut off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts get out from under it and the birds from its branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump and roots in the earth, bound with a band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field. Let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let him graze with the beasts on the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from that of a man. Let him be given the heart of a beast. And let 7 times pass over him. This decision is by the decree of the watchers, and the sentence by the word of the holy ones, in order that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, gives it to whomever he will, and sets over it the lowest of men.
This dream, I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now you, Belteshazzar, declare its interpretation. Since all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known to me the interpretation, but you are able, for the Spirit of the Holy God is in you.
Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for a time, and his thoughts troubled him. So the king spoke.
Belteshazzar, do not let the dream or its interpretation trouble you.
My lord, may the dream concern those who hate you, and its interpretation concern your enemies. The tree that you saw, which grew and became strong, whose height reached to the heavens and which could be seen by all the earth, whose leaves were lovely and its fruit abundant, and which was food for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and in whose branches the birds of the heaven had their home. It is you, O king, who have grown and become strong. For your greatness has grown and reaches to the heavens, and your dominion to the end of the earth. And inasmuch as the king saw a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven and saying, "Chop down the tree and destroy it, but leave its stump and roots in the earth, bound with a band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field. Let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let him graze with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him." This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king. They shall drive you from men. Your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you eat grass like oxen. They shall wet you with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over you, till you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomever he chooses. And inasmuch as they gave the command to leave the stump and roots of the tree, your kingdom shall be assured to you, after you come to know that heaven rules. Therefore, O king, let my advice be acceptable to you. Break off your sins by being righteous, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. Perhaps there may be a lengthening of your prosperity.
All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of the 12 months, he was walking about the royal palace of Babylon. The king spoke.
Is not this great Babylon that I have built for a royal dwelling by my mighty power and for the honor of my majesty?
While the word was still in the king's mouth, a voice fell from heaven.
King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken. The kingdom has departed from you, and they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make you eat grass like oxen, and 7 times shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomever he chooses.
That very hour, the word was fulfilled concerning Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men and ate grass like oxen, His body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hair had grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws.
And at the end of the time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my understanding returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. He does according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. No one can restrain his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" At the same time, my reason returned to me, and for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and splendor returned to me. My counselors and my nobles resorted to me. I was restored to my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth, and his ways justice. And those who walk in pride, he is able to put down.
Okay. All right. So what did you hear? What stood out? Yeah. Loudly.
Yes, my question is in the Lutheran Study Bible, most of it is narration, and then at the end, it's written in the form of poetry.
Yeah.
Why?
Most of it's in poetry.
But purposely, and it's also on the screen.
Yeah.
My question is there something particular?
So think about this, like, it looks like, so we'll say this real fast. The first 3 verses of our chapter, the Hebrew Bible puts, connects it to 3, connects to chapter 3. But then you have narration, and then when Nebuchadnezzar begins to tell about his vision, it's in poetry.
3 stanzas.
Yeah, like that's, but is it just, let's see here. And I don't know, this King James I have, like, it keeps going till, yeah, like it keeps, and then like the Jewish Bible too, like I guess it does, but they always like, and I think that is something, like there's some interpretation in doing it like that. But I think the poetry is kind of indicating how it's read. What do I mean by that? That it's like we're dealing with these really lofty themes here, and like it's bringing it into a song for us to digest those lofty themes. You know, like that's the over there, and it's kind of interesting that it's poetry and a song that all this is presented to us. And I'm glad you're pointing it out, because that's something I noticed too. And I'm like, this isn't just a narrative. You know, there's an extra little layer, and I'm not sure quite what it is, but there's definitely an extra little thing behind it that we're kind of supposed to see that this is almost like a song, a poem. You know, something like that is going on.
Well, I get the feeling it's more ethereal. I mean, not just
Yeah.
going to make you realize that.
Yeah. So more ethereal, something like that. Maybe out, maybe out. Take a look at it. 2 seconds.
Piece of work he is. Love him.
Those who have Christian Bibles, in verse 9, it would be your 9, my 6. Belshazzar, chief musician, and whom I know, read that next line. The spirit.
I know the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and no mystery is too difficult for you.
Plural,
The Hebrew
gods.
Bible has that as the spirit of the holy gods.
Yeah, it's also, it's plural.
It's plural here, too.
Yeah, because
It's
the
plural here,
King
too.
James said
That
it
was
was single.
singular,
Yeah.
which indicated to me,
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar still didn't
Yeah.
get it. Still thinks there's a multiple of gods. It's not until we get to the end of the narrative, when he's been out in the
He
field.
goes high. Yeah.
It's experience to get it.
So,
We're done.
so you figured it out?
Yeah.
That's good, I'm glad. The
You just lost interest.
yeah. So the gods comment, I came in halfway through, but it's important distinction that in Hebrew, which a lot of this is Aramaic, but Aramaic's like close cousin here. Elohim, the word for God, is plural. Im is a plural. And so anytime you read God in Old Testament, it's a plural word that we translate as singular. So I don't know if they're playing with that. We could look at that over there, but that's something here, like, let's see. Yeah. So like that I quote the great Sermon a lot, like, "Hero is the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Like that's it's like, "Hero Israel, the Lord is God's, the gods are one," or something like that. Like, is kind of how that's declined in.
Does that interpretation have anything to do with the triune God?
Maybe that's how a lot of people kind of will kind of rectify it with those things. What I think's going on, the reason why they do that is they're trying to make the word God bigger. Like they're trying to bold it. That's what I think's going on. But that's you're in good company by connecting it to the Trinity. Like that's the where I think that falls apart is there just wasn't a strong understanding of the Trinity, like in the Old Testament. Like that's just there's not a strong understanding of it. But so I think they're trying to make God bigger rather than saying like more God or something like that. They just throw in. So I can do this with another word you already know. So El is God, the root word for God. So if you were making that singular, it would be Elah. Well, in Aramaic, it's Allah. You've heard that before. Like it's just God. Like that's just God. So that's every time you read the word God in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, you are reading Elohim. So it's not Elah, it's Elohim. So you can hear it sounds plural. Im at the end of it, it sounds plural. And so like that's so you're reading a very similar word to that. So that's what's going on. Now I don't know what's going on in that specific verse. I'm still trying to find Daniel because they put it in a different spot in the Hebrew Bible than in others.
1643.
Well, I'm in the actual Hebrew. It's in 1976 apparently. Like that's, which means it's all the way at the end, which I don't think that's true. Which makes me think that their numbering isn't correct.
Some of that one too.
That is the date of the translation. That's not a date.
I have the Judean Hebrew.
Let's see here. where am I going? 1381, that's what, 1381. Like that's, so, 81. It also doesn't help that the book is backwards. No, it is, like,
Real Hebrew.
no, it's backwards. Like, here's Daniel, right here, here's Daniel. And then to go forward in the book, you go this way. And it reads from here in. Like that's, and so, yeah, so like that's, so we get to chapter 4. And yeah, so here's the beginning of chapter 4. You can see the chapter marker, chapter 4 over there. So if we turn the page, so you have narrative, see it looks like narrative. And then you get in here and it's all poetry, right? When it goes back into narrative over here, and then we get to, what verse is that? That is 31.
Yeah.
31, it dives back into poetry. Now, that's not going to be the same verse marker that you have in your Bible. It's more in lines with the Hebrew Study Bible.
31.
But so, like, that's what I wanted to see with this. It is telling us
34.
where the, it's the poetry's in here too. What verse had that strange translation for gods in it? What verse was that? 6
or 9.
6 or 9, okay.
6 in the Hebrew.
Right.
So let's see here. So,
Sorry to take so much time.
No, this is fine. See, I'm just trying to see, where is it in the sentence? Is it near the end? Is it in the middle?
It's 9, it's 1 sentence. O Belshazzar, and getting a couple of words, spirit of the holy gods.
Holy gods to be. The spirit, I know the spirit of the holy gods to be, and whom no mystery baffles.
Yeah, so it's a different plural ending than what we normally, it's not Elohim. It's I'm not even trying to pronounce it. It doesn't matter anyway. But it's a different plural ending. But it's so that's it's the same word, but it's a different.
Well, the interesting thing was to me that the future gods.
Yeah.
One's to be, not just the gods.
Yeah. So that was verse 9. So that was there.
Well, I think what he's saying, he's talking about Daniel,
Mm-hmm.
and he's using gods, but he's saying the spirit of those gods he knows to be dwelling in Daniel. Not like God, future gods, but that Daniel has the wisdom of God,
Yeah.
I think is what he's saying. In whom I know the spirit of the holy gods to be, and whom no mystery baffles. I think that's what.
It's all kind of lofty language.
When it was interesting that the New King James said holy God.
Yeah, I was just looking at here. I'm like, yeah, it's singular
Yeah.
in the King James version,
Yeah.
and they make it singular. Where the more modern English translations do gods.
Gods.
Okay, yours says gods.
Yeah.
Oh.
I got this in 1979.
So that's not one of the modern ones. But New King James translates it as God.
What is the 1948 version?
Yeah. 1648, 1648, that's better. Or whatever, the authorized version.
That's when I got.
Yeah. So yeah, what else stands out to you in this? What's going on with the narrative? What's happening? What do you think of what do you think of the dream? You know, he calls everyone in. There's some interesting language going in with how he calls everyone in. Like we get to see the Magi's again. We get to see the wise men. We get to see like that's there's definitely echoes. You know, when we sing "We Three Kings," you know, the Matthew's original audience would have went straight to these guys. It's not some dudes we've never met before. You know, like over there, it's these guys that interpret dreams and do magic spells like outsiders. You know, like that's it's these guys who can't even do the work for Nebuchadnezzar. So yeah, what else stood out to you?
I think go ahead.
Is this dream the same dream that they had in the beginning?
What do you mean?
This dream sounds like he's going to be fallen, just like he was.
It's really similar.
Yeah.
It's talking about awesomeness.
Almost like another way of saying it.
Yeah. And I think some of that is like that cyclical nature of Hebrew thought. You know, we're moving, but we keep coming back to these ideas, and you really see it here, like that. It's because this dream is different, but it's the same.
Right.
You know, like that. The dream is different, but it's the same.
So I read that differently. I thought God told him in this first dream, and then of course he went out and built a statue. So he obviously didn't get it. So,
Yeah.
you know, how comes that you went more whack here? Do this dream, and he gets another dream, and it gets one. He goes out to the fields. It's like auction. I think it's just God's repeating it. I agree with you. It's cyclical, but I think it's not saying the same dream. It's saying don't pay attention.
Madness.
Yeah. The overall gist is kind of this, because we gotta make sure we talk about this. So you wanted to say something?
Well, I found it interesting that he calls Daniel his chief person, but he didn't call him initially, and they didn't interpret it. Were they afraid to interpret it? Because in the footnotes it says a mighty tree that reaches heaven is a common symbol of a kingdom.
Yeah.
So they would know that. I mean, and then obviously it's destroyed. You know, so were they afraid to say that's you and you're going to get destroyed? You know, kind of. I'm just a thought. You know.
He apparently thought about it too.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the bearer.
I'm going to be the one saying that.
I've seen that fiery furnace. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Pastor,
Yeah.
the tree, the huge tree growing to heaven. I thought of right away the Tower of Babel.
Okay. Yeah. Like that is like you have this lofty vision of stuff going to heaven. And one of my favorite ideas is we think wherever we're going to get healing or satisfaction, there's this architectural idea of those things going to heaven. So like you think about like back in the day, the temples and all that. So if you think like medieval architecture, you know, these cathedrals would go high, you know, they're touching the heavens and all that stuff. And you look at it in most places, this doesn't exist everywhere, but like our hospitals are kind of in that architecture vein. Hospitals usually have this huge, like overarching thing. And I think it's, I think that's something subtle that we do. You see it with this tree. You also see it with the Tower of Babel, and we're dealing with a lot of the same ideas. That this person is touching God, you could say, you know, and so that was great. What else stood out to you? What else?
7 periods.
Do what?
7 periods.
Yeah.
There's 7 periods. Yeah. There's 7 periods.
Season, 7 years.
Yeah. So Ed, what did you want to say? like that's so yeah, seven periods. So there's all this time, like all the time. Like that, remember, like we have these numbers that they kind of mean things. And so, and it's interesting, it's like there's all of this there's all this lushness in this tree. You know, it's got fruit and it extends. So much is provided for this tree. But why is it chopped down and why does it become a beast of the field? It says why.
Because it thinks it's God.
It thinks he's God.
Yeah.
He thinks he's God, but also there's a group of people that aren't getting any of this fruit. Did you notice that?
Don't understand. I don't.
Where was that? It's verse 27 in the English Bibles. Therefore, King, let my advice be acceptable to you. Break off your sins by being righteous and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor. Perhaps there may be a lengthening of your prosperity. So why has he become a beast? Why has he become a beast? Why do you think? We've already dealt with beast-like metaphors before, and it's the same metaphor. We're just explaining it now in previous chapters. I've even alluded to it, but I didn't say so that I could be coy.
Go ahead.
Are we saying the devil, the beast?
No, I'm not saying the devil.
Just make him lowly.
Yeah, like that's not what I'm saying.
The beast is only involved with itself.
Okay.
That's its full awareness. It's only the beast. And it's not a social. There's no community. First the beast.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is second.
Yeah. It's below. He's acting below his human nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's acting below his human nature. So he becomes this beast of the field because that's what he already is. And it's just actualizing it out. And the remedy is, hey, you need to show grace to all these other people that obviously aren't being shown that. But also you see how he's treating everyone else. I mean, this guy is it, it's not like nothing gets better than Nebuchadnezzar, right? You got to worship his images, you got to worship all these things and all that stuff. But, and your enemies should be concerned about you, but it's all going to be chopped down.
He still lacks self-awareness. It's not as if he has an epiphany. He has to be humiliated into understanding how low he is. But the humiliation, he don't continue on and on.
Yeah, and in the humiliation, there, like it's an outcropping of where his heart actually was before. That he's just a beast.
And he doesn't get it in that he knows that Daniel is able to interpret the dreams. Mm-hmm. But when he has the second dream, he still asks his regular magicians, what's it about before he goes to Daniel.
Yeah.
Which is part of that, I think, cyclical thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he was given time to redeem, to be sorry, 12 months before the sentence was carried out.
Yeah.
His statement there. Great Babylon, which I have built. He didn't.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar was a dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
egotistical dope.
Yeah, because interesting, he saw the evidence. I mean, he wrote the fiery furnace. I mean, how could that be more powerful lesson?
Yeah.
On his control. But,
yeah.
And that's the thing, though. 25 says that you have to acknowledge the Most High as sovereign over the kingdoms of men.
Mm-hmm.
And when he does recognize this, he doesn't say, oh, I'm going to go out and help the poor, he says, he gives recognition to God as the eternal dominion of the kingdom. Is all his references back to God, and it's putting him below God. It's saying you're only here at God's will, at God's grace. I just don't follow the line that you were using.
Because it's two verses later.
Okay.
Like that's, it's all that same thing. And it's, I don't think Nebuchadnezzar actually ever gets that. But it's, I think, how we treat people. I mean, the sermon series has been about this so far. Like the kingdom is about the people, you know? And so often that we treat, like that's the, and so you're going to accuse people. But it's pretty explicit there, you know, there in verse 27, that's connected to verse 25, is that he is ruling high and over everything else. And he's running roughshod over everything. And he's neglecting people. And we're going to, that's going to become more evident as we get into the crassly named, like the horned beast. There's another way of saying that. But that's the horned beast coming up. I think it's chapter 7. It's when that comes up, Jesus ends up talking to the Pharisees. And he basically, when they are outside the courts, when Jesus is, right before the crucifixion, Jesus calls them the abomination that causes desolation. That is the horned beast that we're getting to and saying, and it's, all of this, it's all this same language that Jesus levies on the Pharisees is being levied on Nebuchadnezzar. Like, you devour widows' homes. That it is saying this. You neglect all these things like that. That's and those two things are synonymous. That you place yourself under God and you take care of the creation, take care of all these people underneath it. Yeah.
My admittedly limited reading, no king does well. They all have, beginning with Pharaoh, every one of these kings have feet of clay.
Yeah.
Even when they're doing well, eventually Solomon, feet of clay.
Yeah.
There's only one king that is trying to prevail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's true. And it's always kind of a fool's errand. And yet we chase after him over and over again. It's like Nebuchadnezzar here. Like it's this cycle that's like, oh yeah, I know absolute power will corrupt absolutely, but I still want that absolute power. Like it gives us all things here. So it says he's going to graze there. There are a couple things I noticed about here that I thought was interesting language. Let's see, verse 31. While the word was still in the king's mouth, voice no longer Nebuchadnezzar. To you it is spoken, the kingdom has departed from you, and they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you eat grass like the oxen, and 7 times shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, gives it to whoever he chooses. I just thought the wording of that was kind of interesting, and I don't know if this is valid at all, but it made me think of how the shepherds are described in the fields, hanging out with the beasts, like all those things, and then they realize that the king is the Most High, over there, and they kind of tell everyone, right? Type of all that stuff. There's all these Christmas stories are filled with just there's reading between the lines or all that stuff in the Christmas because they're setting the stage for Jesus. Then also it reminded me of Job and things that are said in Job in verse 35, kind of halfway down through it. And among the inhabitants of the earth, no one can restrain his hand or say to him, what have you done? That's almost like a direct call to Job realizing what God is doing at the end of that book. That's like a direct callback. It's like, oh, Job is like, oh, I've talked once too much, like I've been trying to explain to you the whole time, and I realized that was a fool's errand, because I've been trying to put a leash on you, but I see that you make the most scary thing in my life as a pet for my girls. Like that's, I'm quoting Job when I say that. So like it's interesting how Nebuchadnezzar realizes that, and everything's kind of restored to him. But how do you think he's going to deal with that?
Well,
We haven't read it yet.
like I say in the stock market, past performance may be an indication of future growth.
Years to change myself there, right?
Yeah. Like that's, and so you have all these. So it's what I think, and I could be wrong with this, and this is mainly me going in hot off of a sermon I preached on this back in 2018 or 2019, one of those two. And it's that he is acting out in his nature that he already has. And that he looks, because he's so powerful and all that stuff, he looks like a god. He keeps trying to assemble all these things to him. He looks after all this stuff, but he just neglects everything. It looks like he's providing this. Leaves are wonderful and filled with fruit for everyone, but he actually like he's actually just a beast on the inside. Just a beast on the inside, and his true nature comes out in that, and he becomes a beast of the field until he finally looks up in the heavens and talks about all these things. So that's kind of the thing, and that's something that's not hard for us to find today as we look at it. This beastly nature of people being neglected. So that the powerful will become more powerful, like this is still something that's happening today, and this is one of these things where we can be like, all right, maybe I don't choose beast today. Now, let's think about it a second. We're doing all this because of Revelation, right? We're going to be doing Revelation like you have the beast, which coincidentally is the nickname for the Roman emperor that's reigning terror around the countrysides and all those things. He's also called the beast. But this is a direct quote to here. And the reason why I'm sticking on this is because we can't miss it, right? We see Jesus isn't beast-like because he's caring for people, right? Like all these things, and so we're going to get, this is all imagery that John is going to pick up in when he writes his fever dream of a book, Revelation. And I think the reason why we still have that book is because it's a fever dream. If he said things plainly, Rome would have destroyed it. Like that. That's what I think. But because it's written all crazy, like you guys can have it. Like who cares? Like we don't know what's going on here. But when you look at all these things, like there's definitely these ties that are coming all together. So yeah. Anyone have any last things that they want to say? Did I miss it?
What do you think the symbolism is of cutting the tree down, but leaving the roots and the stump? I think of it as, Christ is sending his son and we'll all be redeemed and we'll go up, it'll be a beautiful tree again. That's right.
Yeah. So like that's the stump of Babylon there. It's the stump of Nebuchadnezzar. like, I think you can see that there used to be glory here, maybe.
Mhm.
And like you can see the ruins of civilization. You can see,
The fact that the roots are still there.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's gonna grow again, it's gonna try again, and.
yeah. And so that's a good image. It's a good
Well, they
image.
say that Nebuchadnezzar has his kingdom restored, so maybe that's will be new shoots coming from the.
Yeah, maybe. One of the things I just saw when we were looking through this is, verse 13, it says, I saw in the visions of my head while on my bed, and there was a watcher, a holy one coming down from heaven. This is quoting things from Hebrew lore. The watchers, that like Book of Enoch, like things like that. That's a huge part of it. I think the other time watchers come over is when we're talking about the flood. You know, you have the sons of God and the Nephilim and all that stuff. I think watchers are mentioned there. If you want to find out more about watchers, read the Book of Enoch. But it's often how God exacts justice. That's usually how the watchers are used. And so that's kind of coming from there. So anything else? It's kind of an odd one. I like this one because like he becomes the thing that he is. Like suddenly it's easy for us to see. It's a lot harder for us to see the things. Yeah, it's a lot harder to see.
What do you suppose happens to him after this? I mean, the next chapter we read Belshazzar.
Mm-hmm.
So he ends this chapter talking about he now understands.
Mm-hmm. Like and his story kind of ends. Yeah.
But his son comes and his son has, the same problem, but it's interesting. I just wonder.
Yeah, so it's almost like his story ends like where he actually understands what's going on.
Yeah, but then I'm struck by the concept of the stump of the tree is still there and it grows again, and is that his son? I don't know.
The son comes up next.
Yeah.
The sword.
Yeah.
And Cyrus, is he still related to Nebuchadnezzar, or was he just a different? Because he comes up after the son.
Yeah.
And then Cyrus,
I don't remember.
he's a Mede, so I didn't know if he was the
He's a
same
Mede.
thing.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Weren't the Babylonians defeated by the Medes? I don't remember my history that long. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Nebuchadnezzar was a Babylonian.
Right.
So,
But Cyrus was a Mede.
yeah, Cyrus is a Mede. What do you say?
He's a cup of beer.
Yeah.
Mede.
I mean,
A cup of beer. Okay, sorry, I just.
No. That was. He just wasn't hearing the word, and so like I had to give him the word in another way. Yeah. No. I think it's good, but I do think so. You got to ask the question here as we finish it. Like how is this functioning as the end of Nebuchadnezzar? How is this functioning? Is it a parable? Did it happen? It's all written in this Song of Song prose. Like all those things. What's going on? Like we don't really know. This is what we have. This is what we have. And so, but I like it that his beast-like nature is kind of confirmed, and then he kind of comes out of that and is kind of restored back, and he comes out of it as he kind of looks up and he's like Job. He realizes it like Job. It's very Job-like, and how the whole thing.
and then he's gone.
And he's gone. When it's gone. Well, that's my.
They always make such a big deal out about how the kings were dying.
Yeah.
Their last gasping breaths and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And here, he just disappears.
Well, that's, when you say that too, that's how Genesis is with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob's really the one that sticks around the most. But as soon as Abraham has like Isaac up on the mountain, and he finally the story ends.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like his story ends. And then same thing with Isaac. And Jacob pretty much happens like that too. Joseph's story comes in right after that. Like Jacob wrestles, and it's basically done after that. And we're in service to.
But then, the later kings will their day.
I think we're just seeing what the Hebrews value in their storytelling. That it's something more than just the character on the screen, on the page.
And those who have not yet read will understand better Revelation just having gone through Daniel.
There's a bunch of imagery to share. So that's, yeah. And so that's why I want to go through Daniel first, because if we go through Revelation, we're still going to be going back, and you guys are all going to fight me on stuff. I'm going to say stuff that's going to upset. You just need to understand that.
It's new.
Like what's new? But that's we're going to say things in the Revelation study. They're like, "Rah!" And I'm like, why is this Daniel? Go over here, and it's just a primer to get us ready, so that you guys will actually accept what's written in Revelation, rather than what's written by Tim LaHaye. And it's sorry, I like that.
Like it is Ezekiel.
Ezekiel, I know you could. Daniel's the easiest one to do. It's the whole thing though. And we really, before we do Revelation, we really should do a study on Roman gods in Roman history. There's so much, there's so much stuff like that in there. And so there's a reason why we haven't done it. All right. But thanks so much for coming. So for everyone that's watching online, thank you for joining us. So are there any